Yes, yes.
皆様こんにちは、ちょうど時間ですので始めたいと思います。本日は、IAEA の、グロッシ事務局長をお招きしています。Thank you very much for coming, and my personal congratulations on you on Mr. Leonel message.
Thank you very much.
Great. Patrick. グロッシさん、ではちょっと紹介を始めます。グロッシさんは、6月23日に来日されました。赤澤経済産業大臣、それから石原環境大臣などと会談されたほか、東京電力福島第一原発第一原子力発電所を訪問されました。アルプス処理水の海洋放出の追加モニタリングなどをされました。スケジュールが立て込んでいる中、またイラン情勢が動く中でお時間をいただき、誠にありがとうございます。改めてご紹介するまでもありませんが、グロッシさんは2019年12月に IAEA 事務局長に就任されました。現在2期目となりますが、この間、イランの核問題やロシアが占領するウクライナ南部のザポリージャ原発の問題などに取り組んでこられました。日本記者クラブでご登壇いただくのは、22年5月、23年の7月4日、7月7日、25年2月に続き、今回が5回目となります。昨年11月には国連の次期事務総長を選ぶ選挙に出馬されました。失礼。今日の会見は、英語と日本語の同時通訳で行います。グロッシさんにまず10分から15分ほどお話しいただいた後、会場オンラインからの質問にお答えいただきます。司会は日本記者クラブ企画委員で共同通信の半沢高美が務めます。よろしくお願いします。通訳の方はサイマルインターナショナルの永井真理子さん、それから森岡幹夫さんにご担当いただいております。それでは早速始めさせていただきます。ではグロッシさんお願いします。
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's very good to be here again, as every time I visit Japan. It's an opportunity to meet with many of you, correspondents covering Japan and this part of the world. So I consider it very, very important also for me to be able to exchange with you. This visit to Japan has been very important since we have been covering political, technical themes in the course of my visit. Of course, I have just seen Prime Minister Takaichi, with whom we analyzed different important matters, in particular developments around Iran and what is happening in that negotiation, but also, as she revealed yesterday, a 17-point program, including important technological areas like fusion and others. It was important to look at this from the angle of the cooperation between the IAEA and Japan. I also, with the Minister of METI, we were able to strengthen our cooperation in many areas, including cooperation for nuclear power, SMRs, and others. The Minister of Environment, we are looking at the next phase in our work related to Fukushima, this time not the water but soil, and what we are going to be doing, how we are going to be cooperating with Japan in this important aspect. I was also offshore Fukushima on a scientific vessel, on a boat, completing yet another round of sampling of the water around the nuclear power plant, this time with international experts invited for the occasion from China, the Republic of Korea, and Switzerland. So every meeting also, of course, with the Minister for Science and Technology Innovation, covering as well the cooperation with important foundations like the Nippon Foundation, also another meeting with Fuji Film Company, which is supporting us, Sumitomo. So we are really covering scientific, technological, economy, finance. The arc of cooperation that the IAEA has with Japan is really very rich and very important. And I'm, of course, looking forward to my meeting later today with Foreign Minister Motegi, where we will have opportunities to discuss in a more systematic ways global issues about which I'm sure we are going to exchange with you now. So over to you and to your questions.
ありがとうございます。お時間も限られていますので、早速質問の方に移らせていただきます。質問のある方は挙手をお願いします。私が指名しますので、お近くのマイクを使ってお名前とご所属を明らかにした上で質問してください。英語もしくは日本語でお話しいただければ助かります。恐縮ですが、時間が限られ、お忙しい中、時間頂戴していて、時間が限られていますので、お一人一問、それでできるだけコンパクトにしていただければ助かります。よろしくお願いします。では、まずは会場の方からご質問のある方、挙手をお願いいたします。
日本経済新聞の川瀬と申します。英語で質問させていただきます。Hi, I'm Kenji Kawase from Nikkei. Thank you very much for coming here again. My question is with regard to the Fukushima treated water. You said that you visited there and you inspected the water. Now, would you please give me your response to how the Chinese government has continuously calling this a nuclear contaminated water, even until now? And even though they are sending their professional staff, but they are still using that terminology and still putting sanction on Japan. Would you please give me your comment on that? And are there any sort of internal conversation within IAEA, as China is a member of it, and how that China's position contravenes to IAEA? Would you please comment on that part?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Of course, I can comment on everything. Well, I think this process that we have initiated a couple of years ago of having what we call additional measures of monitoring is quite unique, unprecedented in the world, really, because given the concerns that China and other countries were manifesting about this process, we thought it would be important to show an additional degree of transparency, and Japan, I think, graciously accepted my suggestion to have monitoring campaigns where we would invite experts from different countries, interested countries, that could take, apart from our own samples and the Japanese samples, their own ones and take them to their laboratories so they could independently corroborate the results of these tests. I must say that since we started 3 years ago, 20 batches, around 160,000 tons of treated water have been safely and in a controlled manner dispersed. In some cases, I would say, with the presence of radionuclides much lower than we expected and lower than operating nuclear power plants in the world. So in that sense, it's a very successful campaign. Of course, until we complete it, it's not mission accomplished. And as I said, when we began this, we are going to be looking after the entire inventory of water until the last drop, as you may remember, as I said back then. Regarding the way in which China or other countries may describe this is a good question for them. we are satisfied that, of course, no contaminated water is being dispersed in to the ocean. No contaminated water is dispersed into the ocean. The IAEA would never endorse that, obviously, and everything which is being done is in line with the internationally agreed nuclear safety standards. So we are extremely satisfied in this sense, but we will continue very vigilant until the campaign is completed.
そちらの方、2番目の方。
Your Excellency, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Degawa from NHK, Japan Broadcasting Corporation.
Hello.
I ask you a question in Japanese.
Yes.
My question is about イラン核問題についてお伺いいたします。イランは一貫して核の平和利用を進めていると主張していますけれども、それについて疑うような理由とか根拠というのはあるのでしょうか。つまりイランが核兵器を開発している可能性は完全に排除できないとお考えなのでしょうかと。そして関連して今焦点となっている 60% に濃縮された高濃縮ウラン、これはイランのイスファハンの施設の下にあると考えてよいでしょうか。そしてこれを処理するにあたって IAEA はどのように関わっていくのでしょうか。以上です。
Thank you for your question, which has different elements to it. First of all, the process of safeguarding nuclear activities in the world, inspecting, we use this word safeguards, but it's inspections. This process in Iran and in any other country is aimed at precisely excluding that there is undeclared activities or undeclared material or deviation of material to non-peaceful purposes. This is the general sense of our work. So whenever we have concerns or whenever there are limitations to the access of our inspectors, we do not accuse anybody of developing nuclear weapons, but what we say is that we cannot provide credible assurances, confirmations that everything is in order. It's a very simple, I would say, model that we have. And this applies to Iran and to everybody else, signatory of the NPT, of course, that has countries that have a comprehensive safeguards agreement with the agency. So this is in general. In particular, in this area, as you know, a memorandum of understanding was subscribed by the two presidents, by President Donald Trump and President Pezeshkian from Iran. And this agreement expressly indicates that the nuclear part will be supervised, monitored by the IAEA. So we haven't started this process of verification. You rightly refer to the material, to the highly enriched uranium, and we have, of course, an important inventory of more than 400 kilograms of that, but there's also 20%, there's also 5%, there's a lot of uranium there. So we have barely initiated conversations with Iran so as to determine what are the modalities, and by modalities we refer to frequency, places to be visited, and so on. So the process, as you know, last weekend we were in Bugenstock in Switzerland, where initial conversations have taken place. So I expect this work to pick up soon.
ありがとうございます。じゃあどうぞ。
本 本日はお忙しいところありがとうございます。M&A オンラインの糸永と言います。福島原発をご覧になられたということですけれども、この廃炉プロセス、これについてどのような印象を持ったか、これ順調にいってるか、いや苦労されてると思ったか、いやもうちょっと IAEA としてこういう協力ができるんじゃないかとか、どのような印象を持たれたかお願いします。
Well, yes, of course. We have been working on the commissioning from 2011, more or less. I mean, from the moment of the accident, the IAEA has been present there. We have been providing different kind of assessments and reports on what is being done. And this encompasses the water part, which I referred to. Now we are going to be working in the same, with the same type of approach regarding the soil that was removed after the accident and which has been recycled and prepared for further use without any type of contamination. And there are two other important parts. One is the fuel, the spent fuel recovery and the debris after the accident and its recovery. So each part, the water, debris, and spent fuel, has its own, I would say, a degree of difficulty. When it comes to debris, this is very meticulous and time-consuming because we need to use robots to pick up small nuggets of the molten reactor core, to analyze it, to see the radioactivity that they have, and on the basis of that, have a plan for its complete recovery. When it comes to fuel, this is moving quite fast. For 3 units, the recovery is completed, and 2 others are going to be started very soon, I understand. In terms of dates, of course, this is something that TEPCO is estimating. The Nuclear Regulatory Authority is looking at that. The time frame, which is being contemplated, goes around 2050 or 2051. In my opinion, it could be even faster, because what I see is that the pace of the work is picking up. There is more confidence, as, for example, in the case of the water, as I was mentioning to our colleague just now, 3 years of work, 20 batches successfully disposed of. So this, of course, gives more confidence to the operators, which, who try to go faster, although there is a limit to that, and one has to respond and to comply with a number of technical parameters that take some time. So my impression is that the pace is satisfactory.
Thank you. The gentleman on the second row, please.
Tim Kelly from Reuters News.
Hello.
Hi. Could you be a bit more explicit or give us a bit more clarity on where the situation stands with inspections in Iran? So the US side has said they expect your teams to go in. The Iranian side seems to be saying that that's not the case, or at least not to some sites. Could you kind of give us more specific in terms of when you expect to go in? What is causing this confusion between the two sides? And when you meet the Iranian side to discuss entry, what is your expected date of entry, or the date that you hope to actually get into Iran and start your inspections?
Yes.
Sorry if I may interrupt. I have a similar question from David Astor, FA News Agency. Iran.
Okay. So for both,
maybe I can
our colleague online and the gentleman from
Iran reiterated on Wednesday that it does not plan to allow inspections by the IAEA at the attacked nuclear facilities, despite the insistence of U.S. President. And you recently stated that the checks will begin soon. What is your reaction? Thank you.
Well, there is a bit of a war of statements here, and I think I pointed out earlier in the week when asked a similar question, that this is part of a political, I would say, statements. We've seen that before. What is undeniable is that we have an MOU. This MOU specifically indicates that the nuclear part of the memorandum will be supervised, this is the word, will be supervised by the IAEA. In order to supervise, we need to inspect. There is no other way. So the technical work has started, and we hope to be there soon. In terms of the timing, this is important. It's not essential. If we go in 1 week or in two weeks, and one should be reminded of the fact that this agreement has multiple parts. Apart from the nuclear, specifically nuclear chapter of it, there are things related to territorial integrity, to the use of force, to economic incentives, sanctions lifting, freedom of navigation. I mean, there are so many things. So I believe that perhaps this sometimes less than clear statements from one or the other, or contradictory, I should rather say, contradictory statements, owe a bit to that factor, that this is political positioning. But in reality, there is an agreement, and to comply with that agreement, the IAEA will have to have access and inspect. So I am prepared to continue the technical work and to be there as soon as possible.
Thank you. じゃあ一番前の女性の方どうぞ。
My name is Haruka Sasaki from Nikkei. I have also additional questions about the nuclear inspection. Are there any negotiations or discussions about the nuclear inspection, so with the Iranian side, Iranian government or authorities? And what has Iranians kind of reactions, if you have it, there's any opposing kind of reactions or any negotiations with the kind of Iranian side? Thank you.
We had an initial exchange with the Iranian side at technical level. And the expectation is that this process will continue. You may remember that the negotiators themselves, and we are not a party to the negotiation, we are supposed to be inspecting the nuclear part, but they have established like an executive committee or supervisory committee, which will include technical working groups, including one on nuclear. So there is some process that they are trying to define to channel the discussions within this 60-day period that they have given to themselves.
次の質問の方。一番真ん中どうぞ。
Simon Steady from AFP News Agency. You said before that there's, I think you said 440 kilos of highly enriched uranium. What would be the process for that? How long of time would that take to actually downblend that to a safe level? What needs to happen technically? Would the IAEA bring in low enriched uranium with which to mix with the high enriched uranium? And then what would happen with that material once it's been downblended? And secondly, if I may, does the IAEA know for a fact where the stockpile is and if it's accessible following the bombardment by the US and Israel? Thank you.
Well, regarding the place, there is a widespread impression or idea that it is where it was back in June 2025. So most of it in Isfahan, but also some of it in Natanz and some of it in Fordo. So this is the impression. But of course, to confirm all that, the first thing that needs to happen is that we have access to the material. and to make sure that even last time we were there in June 2025, we had measured, we had weighed, and we have sealed all this material. So before anything starts, we have to go back, check whether our seals are there, whether there is any missing material. That is, I would say, the first thing before anything else. Secondly, regarding all the technical alternatives, these are that. I mean, what you describe, for example, downblending, this is an alternative. They will have to come to an agreement. The Memorandum of Understanding, as you may have noted or noticed, includes the possibility of downblending as an alternative. It could also be shipped out directly. It would be perhaps more complicated, but there are a few technical alternatives to deal with the material, which will have to be agreed upon by them. And once we learn this, or we know about this, we will be indicating the technical procedures that are needed, the inspections that are required, the frequency, the technologies to be used in order to make sure that the entire stockpile of material is indeed downblended and put somewhere or exported to another country. So this is an area that requires agreement still.
はい、ありがとうございます。会場の方に戻る前に1回だけ、オンラインの方の質問も、させてください。その後また会場の方に戻ります。中国新聞の下高さんからの質問です。NPT 再検討会議について伺います。3回連続で最終文書を採択できなかったことを踏まえ、条約体制の維持・強化に向けてどのような取り組みが必要だとお考えでしょうか。また、日本政府に期待する役割についても教えてください。こういった質問です。
Well, the review of the NPT, of course, is a very important process, but I have said publicly that the success and importance of the NPT is not defined by the absence of a final declaration after a review conference. Indeed, it would be preferable to have a final statement, a final declaration after the conference. But the treaty was reviewed thoroughly during the month-long conference in New York, and then it was not possible to agree on a final text, which is not uncommon these days. Obviously, we have wars, we have political tensions, so sometimes countries find it difficult to agree on a language, particular language, because one or the other want to include language which is accusatory or blaming another country for this or that. So this is not surprising. But the reality is that the review took place and that the NPT, in spite of all these tensions in the world and points of tension and conflict, the NPT continues to be a very important element in the landscape, so to speak, of international norms. As to Japan, Japan has traditionally played a very important role in non-proliferation. Japan is the only country in the world that suffered the use of nuclear weapons, so there has been a steadfast and historically very solid commitment here to protect and to observe norms around the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. So I continue to believe that this is going to be the case in the future.
Thank you. じゃあ会場から質問のある方どうぞ。
毎日新聞の小川と申します。青森県の六ヶ所村の再処理施設についてお尋ねしたいと思います。再処理施設の完成が近づいてきましたけれども、核の平和利用だとか保障措置の観点でどのような懸念があるか、またそれに対して運営会社である日本原燃ですとか規制当局に対してどのような姿勢を望むかということについてお尋ねしたいと思います。
Well, yes, the commissioning of the Rokasho reprocessing plant and the JMOX plant for fabrication of mixed oxide fuels is well advanced. For us, what's important is that everything is in place. It's given the dimension or the magnitude of this facility, the verification operation is going to be very, very important. But I don't foresee any problem. It's going to be a vast effort on our part because of the large amounts of fissile material that are going to be produced as a result of the processes there. But our inspectors visit regularly. Preparatory work is well advanced. So I expect this to be, once the facility is commissioned, I expect this to be a routine operation. But the IAEA will be very, very present there, naturally.
はい、いかがでしょうか。そちらの、2番目の列の方、どうぞ。
Shotaro Tani from Nikkei Asia. Trump obviously went into this war saying that Iran will have no nukes. How optimistic are you of that happening at the end of this all? And what do you think is the best way of ensuring that Iran does have no nukes in the future? Should a framework like JCPOA be reintroduced? Thank you.
Yes, I think the objective of this agreement is to ensure that there is no development of nuclear weapons in Iran. The government of Iran has affirmed quite clearly that this is not their intention, but of course intentions are not enough. We have to have a very strong verification system in place. So as I was saying before, in order to have certainty, we need to have a very strong system of verification as soon as practicable. I don't see at this point any sign that this is not the intention, and our position as IAEA is that we do not judge intentions. We don't attribute bad intentions to anybody, but at the same time, we do not accept things at face value. We must verify. We must verify everywhere. We must verify all the time. And this is what I expect to be having as a system that is going to be giving everybody the confidence that this agreement is not just a piece of paper, but something that is there. And no, it is not similar to the JCPOA. It is not. It is very, very different from the JCPOA. JCPOA was a system that was applied on a nuclear program that was much smaller, and that presupposed the continuation of a number of activities, including enrichment. In this case, we are talking about a post-war arrangement where the agency is going to be verifying, for example, that an amount of enriched uranium is disposed of. Before it was, the continued production of enriched uranium, and before there were other activities related to a nuclear infrastructure that might be subject now to a moratorium. So, as you can see, JCPOA is not a useful parameter to judge MOU and its verification measures.
Thank you. オンラインの質問を一つお伝えしたいと思います。BS11 の山内さんからです。IAEA はアメリカとイスラエルによるイラン攻撃について国際法違反という認識でしょうか。イランが査察を受け入れる条件に IAEA に認識を示すよう求めていますかという質問です。
Well, I have said repeatedly in front of the Board of Governors of the IAEA, I have always indicated at the United Nations Security Council that nuclear facilities should not be attacked. On that, I have been absolutely clear. Then our work is to verify the material and the agreement that has been reached and stay clear from political declarations of this sort. We have done it in this case, we have done it in other cases. We are in the solution of technical problems, and this is what we intend to do in this case. And on the previous issue, I think we have been very clear, indicating that attacking nuclear facilities is something that should never happen.
ありがとうございます。お時間は割と、予想以上にありそうなので、会場からセカンドラウンドの質問があればそちらもお受けします。どうぞ、まずはお願いします。
読売新聞の尾形と申します。今、イランとアメリカのですね、この前の覚書について関連した質問です。トランプ政権はですね、国連ですとか国際機関との協力に対して非常に後ろ向きだと姿勢を示しています。一方でイランの側もですね、IAEA とのですね、協力を禁じるような法案を議会で通したりしておりました。しかしこの前の覚書の中では IAEA がですね、このイランの核問題について関与するということが明示されております。アメリカ、イランどちらの側からですね、最初にこの提案が出てきたのでしょうか。それはまたいつのタイミングだったのでしょうか。そしてそれを受けるというふうに IAEA が決めたのはどういうふうなタイミングでどのようなプロセスだったのでしょうか。よろしくお願いします。
Well, thank you very much. To understand this, I think it's important to see that when it comes to nuclear activities, which involve sensitive processes and material that could eventually be used for manufacturing nuclear weapons, unilateral statements will never do. Countries may say, we will never have nuclear weapons, or other countries may say, we believe that they are doing so. But in order to come to an objective assessment of whether this is happening or not, you need the IAEA. So you will see in media that sometimes there's criticism, they attack sometimes me personally, very harshly. But at the end of the day, you need the IAEA because you need to prove, from the perspective of Iran, for example, if I put myself in Iran's shoes, you need to prove that there is nothing to worry. And of course, the international community will not believe or take at face value what is said by a country. Or looking at the other side of the spectrum, as you were saying, Israel or the United States, people may be saying, no, they are deviating nuclear material or they are manufacturing a nuclear weapon. Again, the other side or half of the library will say no. And this is why we created the IAEA to, or if you allow the analogy, apply it to Fukushima. people may be saying there is no problem with the water. Well, of course, people perhaps may not believe it. So this is why you need an impartial, neutral, technical instance that will go and look at the facts. So, and in terms of the process, as you know, we were not party to this last conversations around the memorandum, but we were there present before until February. And in the process of those conversations, it was very clear that we needed, for the agreement to be solid, for the agreement to be credible, you need to have IAEA verification. And of course, according to the statute of the IAEA, when one country or two countries agree on something and they request the IAEA to verify it, this is what we do.
一問、すみません、一度オンラインの方にさせてください。一問オンラインで直接質問をしたいという方、共同通信の太田さんから、質問が来ています。いかがでしょうか、太田さん、今話せる状況でしょうか。
太田さん、ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。
はい、どうぞ。
Thank you very much, Mr. Grossi. My name is Masa Ota with Kyodo News. My question is regarding the DPRK, nuclear North Korea. What was your, most, updating assessment of the nuclear capability? I mean, the nuclear stockpile of the DPRK. Some institutions estimate that they are 60 or maybe 60 is a number. So what's your current assessment? And also, do you think, it is still feasible and technically to, realize the denuclearization of the DPRK? And if so, what would be a key point to materialize the denuclearization of the North Korea? That's my question. Also, do you have any discussion with the Japanese authority on the, specifically on the DPRK? That's my question. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. Yes, of course, we have been discussing with the government of Japan, and I had a opportunity this morning to discuss this with the Prime Minister, and I'm sure I will have conversations with the Foreign Minister on this matter, because this is an issue of undeniable interest and concern internationally, and in particular in this region. The IAEA, in spite of the fact that our inspectors were expelled from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in 2009, has continued a very dedicated process of analysis, evaluation, and following of the North Korean nuclear program. You may recall that for some months we have been including in our report the impression that a new enrichment hall was being built at the Yongbyon nuclear compound. And very recently, I'm sure you must have seen pictures of Kim Jong-un, the leader, walking around cascades of centrifuges, which came to confirm what the IAEA had been indicating before. So in terms of the future, I think this is, let me disagree with you slightly, it's not a technical issue, this is a political issue, whether there's going to be a dialogue or not. We, of course, from the IAEA perspective, would be ready to deploy immediatthe if there is such agreement. It happened in the past, as you may remember, in the early 2000s, where after an interim agreement, the IAEA inspectors returned until 2009, as I said, where they were we were expelled. So I hope that this is going to be the case. I've been having consultations, of course, with Japan, also with the Korean government, with the South Korean government, about this. Yeah.
はい、ありがとうございます。会場の方からどうぞ。
Yes, my name is Hisham Rojbani, and I'm a correspondent for Al Arabi TV network in Japan.
Hello.
So I do have two questions. The first question is regarding Fukushima, and I know the IAEA is always doing a regular checkup on the progress of the dismantling the Fukushima Daiichi. And also, there is always a criticism from especially the Chinese side that they are always criticizing the process of releasing of diluted waters in the sea. What is your opinion regarding that kind of criticism, and how the IAEA is trying to show the truth to the Chinese government? The other question is, as Mr. Grossi is a runner for the UN chief, what do you think the most reform the United States, the United Nations needs, and what is your vision towards that?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, on your first question, indeed, China has expressed concerns, and maybe they continue to do that, and so did other countries. And the way we addressed this was with the establishment of this unprecedented system of monitoring with Chinese participation. So what we did is, we took the bull by the horns, as some would say. So we said, all right, there are concerns, and China and other countries as well were saying, no, this is a very serious matter. So we came up with a technical solution for a technico-political problem, which was this issue of a certain deficit of trust or confidence. And the system so far has been working very well. As I was saying, I was on board a boat the day before yesterday, side by side with a Chinese expert. I was filling his jar and the bottles he's going to be taking to his own lab back in China. So, frankly speaking, in terms of transparency, this is unprecedented. Of course, we may address, if they have any other issues, we may address it, we may be looking at it, but I think this is a very important confidence-building measure that we have taken. Regarding the United Nations, I would say that the UN, in spite of the international tensions, the problems that, in part, we are discussing this today, no? What happens in the Middle East, what happens between Russia and Ukraine, in Africa and in other parts. The UN continues to be indispensable. The problem is that the UN is not acting in the way we would expect it to be acting. It's not an actor. It's not a broker of peace, as it was envisaged when the Charter was established back in 1945. In terms of my own vision, it is inspired in what I have been telling you. I and the IAEA, we have been showing in the battlefields of Ukraine or in the waters of the Japanese shore near Fukushima, or in the Middle East in the negotiations on Iran, or what we are doing with Syria and other countries, we have shown that it is possible that international, multilateral tools do exist to address some of the most serious problems that we are facing. And I believe, and this is why I stepped forward, I believe that this experience can be extrapolated to the United Nations. We need a United Nations that actually works, because one big danger we have is that the UN continues to drift into irrelevance, a place where statements are made, but there is no real concrete contribution to the solution of international problems. My work has put me in contact with all world leaders. I know them, they know me. So I believe that this is a good, perhaps, basis to construct, to build together a new leadership and a new, I would say, recommitment to a UN that will be actually be present and solving international problems. That is my hope. Thank you.
Thank you. すみません。じゃあ、初めての方をちょっとさせてください。オンラインで、質問が来ています。共同通信科学部の広江さん。グロス、this is kind of follow-up question. グロスさんは先ほど福島第一原発の廃炉完了が2051年の期限よりも早く進むのではないかという、個人的な見解を示されました。しかし、1から3号機原子炉建屋周辺には廃棄物を保管する建物などがあり、それらの解体に想像以上の時間がかかることが昨年判明しました。また、メルトダウンした1から3号機の原子炉格納庫の蓋にはデブリに匹敵する放射性物質が付着しています。グロシさんの見解はやや楽観的ではないでしょうか。進んでいると思った作業と難しい作業をそれぞれ教えてくださいという。
Well, this is your opinion, and I respect it. Mine is that I see a process that is moving in the right direction. But let me say something, and here I think we will agree. This is not a race against time. Things need to be done in the right way, And you are right, and I would agree with you that we are dealing with radioactive debris, and we have to be and take every imaginable measure to make sure that there is no negative impact on the environment. And so there will be no compromise on this. I'm just giving you this assessment, looking at the pace of work there. It might be that, it might be a little bit longer. At the end of the day, what matters is that this is done in a thorough, comprehensive, systematic way, and this is the most important thing. This is not a race. This has to be done in the right way.
Thank you. じゃあどうぞ。2番目の方。
Thank you, Kenji Kawasanike again. I want to follow up on the other question on North Korea. How would you assess the role of Russia proliferating their alleged nuclear technology to North Korea, and what has played into the development? And also, in terms of since the IAEA staff has been expelled from North Korea, what role has China played in the inspection and also in the process of monitoring North Korea, and also giving all sorts of support or whatever to the IAEA? Thank you.
We do not have any indication that the Russian Federation is helping proliferation in North Korea. We don't. We know at the same time that North Korea and the Russian Federation have subscribed a number of agreements in the context of the war and on military and even, I think, peaceful uses of nuclear energy, but we do not have any information or any indication that there is a proliferation concern in that regard. And the same applies to China. But at the end of the day, without being there, without inspecting there, we must be a bit, I would say, prudent in our judgment as to what is happening inside North Korea. All right, but I see that the countries which are in good standing with their NPT obligations are not violating them in this regard, in in terms of proliferation of nuclear weapons, if this is what you ask.
Thank you. じゃあ、一番前の女性の方、どうぞ。
I'm Mari Yamaguchi from the Associated Press.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
I have a question regarding your inspection in Iran.
Yes.
So you have mentioned 60-day time frame
Yeah.
and hopes to be able to achieve as soon as possible. But I'm just wondering, what are potential risks for not being able to do that as soon as possible, or in case that the deadlock prolongs, what are the potential risks or for not being able to fully verify suspected materials? Thank you.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for the question. No, you know, the time frame has been defined by them, by the United States and Iran, as an indication of some urgency, to indicate that they do not want to see this as a never-ending process that prolongs itself in time without a resolution. So I think the elements are in place to try to do that within that framework. The implementation of the agreement will take more than 60 days. This is very important for everybody to understand, the implementation. In 60 days, we have to have an agreement and do as much as we can within the 60 days. But of course, this will open a process that will be prolonging in time. Let's imagine that there is a moratorium or something like that. So I think we have to make the distinction between this time frame and the deadline that they have set to themselves, I would say, and the verification process, which is going to be longer than that. So it's not that we are holding our breath. What happens if we reach day 60 and not everything is done? Well, that will depend on whether we are working at that point in time, whether we see cooperation, whether we see engagement on both sides. So we will have to be, of course, following that very, very closely, as you will, I'm sure. Everybody will be looking at what is happening on the ground.
Thank you. We are getting close to the time limit. Do we have time for just one quick last question?
All right.
Thank you. じゃあ、そちらの方どうぞ。ちょっと短めに。
Okay.
M&A オンラインの糸永です。すみません、2回目の質問で、今AI ウクライナとイランで、AI 非常に活用されててですね、軍事アナリストの方にはもう核に代わる抑止力になるんじゃないかっていうお話をされている方が何人かいらっしゃるんですけれども、この AI の軍事利用っていうのは核拡散のブレーキ、あるいは非核化のアクセル、これになりうるとお考えでしょうか。よろしくお願いします。
Well, AI as a technological tool in itself is neutral. In itself, it depends on the use you give to it. AI is extremely useful, for example, in nuclear design, in nuclear safety. For inspections, as in any activity that you could be using it, you are using it for your research, for your journalistic work, in banking, in manufacturing, in everything. So we do not attribute to AI a priori any negative connotation. There are important debates internationally about weapon systems that are AI-based, and of course we have to be checking on those, the principle of human in the loop in terms of decisions for weapon use, the debate about autonomous weapons and these kinds of things are extremely relevant. But AI in itself is neutral. And as an instrument, we must make sure that it is always used for progress, for peace, for prosperity, and not for destruction. This is the attitude.
はい、ありがとうございます。他にもちょっと質問が来てるんですが、ちょっと時間の関係ありまして、制限ありまして、ここで、終わらせていただきたいと思います。Thank you very much, Director General. We greatly appreciate your thoughtful and clear responses to our questions, and hope you will come back soon, maybe as a Director General or maybe as a SG.
Absolutely. In whichever capacity, you can always count on me to meet with the press to explain what is happening. And I always appreciate our very good exchanges. And I hope to see you again very soon. I hope you have a good evening and an excellent weekend. Thank you very much to all. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございました。忙しいところ時間を頂戴しましたので、皆さんから拍手を頂戴して終わらせたいと思います。
Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございます。じゃあ、グロッシさん、退席の間、ちょっとお待ちください。